Morning, everybody. Nice to have you, and welcome to my sanctuary, my happy place. Um, the letters here are the initials of my name, Taibala Kravath. I spent a lot of time in Yiddish shul, and Yiddish was our first language. So I pay homage to the traditions that were taught to me by my beloved parents. Come on in. So this was originally a garage, and we insulated it maybe 15, 16 years ago. And no matter what is happening in the world, I come in here and I feel very grateful to have um, evidence of my productivity throughout the years. I find that I respond to the world's events by coming in here and making art. It's the one way that I can discharge some of the energy that is so disturbing in this world. So I work with several different materials, but having a tight space, I need to make sure that everything is separate. So I'm fastidiously cleaning up and working very neatly. Clay does not work with encaustic. Wax and wet do not work together. So I put all my encaustic stuff under the tables there. I also work a lot with collage, and that's organized in a different section. And I do a lot of sketching. So I sit and watch my beautiful garden while I'm at the drawing table. So let me take you around and just explain what I'm working on. I originally worked with bronzes in New Mexico. I was out there for 5 summers in a row, and the wax that you use to make a maquette is certainly different than encaustic, but I became familiar with waxes for a while, and these are waiting to be bronzed should I ever get the energy and the impetus to move them forward. But they're warrior figures, and that's a theme that comes through my immigrant family, who were basically not educated people, craftspeople who had the courage to cross that ocean and come here and give me this amazing life, where after teaching for 30 years in the Board of Ed, I get to make art all the time. So I'm thrilled. My figures are built out of slabs. I often sketch them first before to get the proportions that I need, because slab building is kind of an architectural approach to building. I had a studio mate who had an architectural background, and watching him work, I was able to see how he constructed, similar to how our new edition was constructed, with slabs of material and joints. So for me, the thrill of this particular figure came when I realized I needed to bring it back to life. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the process of clay. I know a few of you are, where you form something that's wet. This is now formed, and when it dries, it almost loses all its energy. It has a staid kind of look to it. You put it in the electric kiln, the bisque kiln, and the chemical water leaves, and it's a flat color. It doesn't have a life to it. So then the job is to how to create the surface so it looks like it's back to life. And for many years, I've been doing wood firing, and I'll show you the difference between the surface treatments. Wood firing for me has been an extraordinary experience. It's a group activity. You're working for up to 7 days in a Anagama Kiln, a Japanese-style kiln, tunnel kiln. You could stoke for 7 days, and you work in teams. And you're on for 4 hours and off for an hour, and you come back. and the wood ash itself creates a surface. But that's a lot of schlepping. And so I've been experimenting with different approaches to surface treatment, and I think I finally hit upon the one that I like, that I can do myself without schlepping the work up to a wood fire. And this is done with oxidizing paints. And so you paint it, it's either iron or bronze or brass. And I've learned to layer the colors, and then you spritz it with a chemical, and the results start to change, and I got the surfaces that I do like. They're still not quite wood-fired, but they come close to touching my heart. So let me take you around. These are works that are waiting to be bisqued. These are Susan and Lois's works that came over the weekend. And it takes a slow drying. And when they're dry enough so that it's very fragile, they go into the electric kiln, and they're fired for about 4 to 6 hours. And the chemical water leaves, and then they're a flat color. And the example of that would be this figure over here holding a baby. She was one of my first when I was questioning pregnancy and having children. She was, and women as vessels, the top of her removes and there's a hollow inside. So that's a theme. Women as vessel is a frequent theme. These more recent works, I work in a series of 3s at least, and the bird on a shoulder has been around for a couple of months now. This one was done with encaustic, which is a wax-based paint. And working in encaustic on 3 dimensions is somewhat challenging, and though this came out in a way that I like, it's not something I'll repeat. It was too much uncontrolledness in it, in a way that wasn't satisfying. And this is the most recent piece that came out of a soda kiln, and I did not appreciate the shiny. It doesn't work on my pieces, and though the form is something that I will revisit, I don't think I'll revisit that kind of firing. So the work comes out of the electric kiln, and then I'm challenged with how to create what I really love is the wood-fired surface. These 2 pieces came out of an Anagama Kiln, a Japanese-style kiln at Peters Valley, and it's tumble stacked that they're put in the shelves in different kinds of ways, and somebody's cup or vessel was in front of the piece, so the fire worked around that piece, and I ended up with this wonderful arbitrary surface. The tree occasionally, when it eats the minerals that it eats when it's living, deposit those minerals on the piece when it's being fired. So there's streaks of blue that I did not put on. The ash from the tree itself becomes a glaze and deposit on the piece in an unexpected way. And for me, that's really important in how the work looks. There's a way that the unexpected nature of our lives is embedded in the surface of the form. These pieces up here were an homage to 9/11. The day after that awful event, I came to the studio and felt the swirling out of controlness. So this piece speaks to me personally of the sorrow and the fear, and the grief piece next to it was a series that I worked on for a long time. And the matriarch, the tall piece, is a bronze, the guardian figure. The pieces underneath have embedded in it the word hineni, which is I am here, the response when God asks Adam, where are you? Hineni implies a moral responsibility, a moral choice to take responsibility for where we are. And Hineni is something I try to focus on a lot, being here now. The wooden tools on the shelves are my father's hand tools, which I am grateful for a man who gave me so much in life. So warrior figures are something I do a lot. The short women of my family were very brave and very much warriors. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was a motivating energy that filled their brains about how they had to live in life. And so the theme keeps coming back. And there are a few bronzes here, but most of this is clay. And these pieces here are where I'm moving towards, because these are the oxidizing paints. I really find myself at this point in my life unable to keep schlepping up to the mountain, packing the bisqueware to bring it up and firing for hours on end. So I'm looking at the surface treatments that give me that feeling of rock, of things that are coming out of the earth. The ones on the wall are wood-fired, and I think I'm coming closer to solutions for my painted work, because I like that look up there. This is also wood-fired. I have been experimenting for a while with encaustic paints, and I had a series of paintings that I don't focus on as much. The seed form down here is wood-fired, and seeds and women as seed forms and nurturers are a common theme for me, as is gratitude. This form is based on the letter Hey, and it's, for me, an exploration of the energy between an adult and a child, the space between, how it looks, and Hey is the beginning of the word for life, how women are generating life and moving information forward to the next generation. And on this table is one wood-fired piece, and you could see I am getting a bit closer to the results I want. This is painted and this is wood-fired. The woman as seed form is an old familiar theme for me. As is occasional biblical reference, Abraham and Isaac, and seed form again. And here's another letter, Hey, the adult with the child sending it forth. There's something for me very tender about the parent-child relationship that I keep exploring. Maybe I wanted a little bit more of that in my childhood. This is a example from the Anagama Kiln, which I treasure. You could see the flames mark on the back, and all this color comes from trees giving up their life to become ash, and ash becomes glaze at 2,400 degrees. So I really enjoy that. And I look at the natural world and kind of want my work to come out of the earth. So I'm using that as the goal that I'm trying for when I work. So thank you for coming to visit. It's been a pleasure.